and welcome to Alpha Book Club. I'm Hector Navarro, and this is an online book club for our Alpha community members. Joining me, as always, is Rachel Heine.
Hello.
That was fantastic. Hey, everybody. How's everybody doing? Welcome, Internet. Thank you so much for joining us. We are out. Currently, Maud Garrett is out today. She's lost in the fifth dimension, I think?
Yeah.
Is that right? The fifth dimension? Is that the same one where Mr. McZipsel Spitlick is from? We should try to get her back. We need her back. She'll hopefully be back real soon. But we're bringing up the stuff about dimensions, Rachel, because we're reading a book that I've never read.
Yes.
That you've read before.
I'm trying to remember how old I was when I read this because I only have a vague recollection of some of the characters and some of the themes, and I think as I'm reading, I'm remembering them, but
great.
I must have been 8 or
cool.
9, something like that. So
if you're just joining us for the first time, we just spent last month reading and dissecting The Haunting of Hill House for Halloween, which is so much fun. And this month we're going to be tackling A Wrinkle in Time, baby. Look at that. A Wrinkle in Time. Of course, we want to hear from you, so hit us up in the chat. Thank you guys for being there in the chat. And also, if you want to call in and Skype call in with us, or just video chat with us, let us know in the chat so that we can give you guys some info so that we can do that. We would love to hear from you. We can hear you. We can see you talking about the first 3 chapters of A Wrinkle in Time. I am so excited to get into this book. I've never read it. We have a lot to discuss today, and we've only got an hour. So, without further ado, let's get into A Wrinkle in Time. No, what was it? It's time for...
I already forgot it.
Oh, my gosh.
We're going to wrinkle... Oh, man. It was on Twitter. Let's
I
go
know,
wrinkle
I said We're going to get our wrinkle on,
A wrinkle?
y'all.
Yeah, get our wrinkle on, y'all.
It's time to get our wrinkle on.
That's our new catchphrase.
That's what
Even when we're not reading A Wrinkle in Time.
It's time to get our wrinkle on, no matter what the book is. Exactly. All right, great. So, Rachel, do you want to tell us and the Internet a little bit about A Wrinkle in Time, some sort of backstory? Normally, this is the part of the show where we talk about previously on the book that we read. But since this is the first few chapters, we'll give you guys a little bit of the historical context.
Yes.
And a little bit about the author. Let's talk about that.
Yes. So Madeline L'Engle.
Madeline L'Engle.
L'Engle or L'Engle. We're not quite sure.
I think it was Madeline Illegal. I don't remember.
Madeline Illegal?
Illegal. I remember it from when I was read it in 6th grade.
Yeah, it's definitely Madeline Illegal.
I'm sorry. No, it was really cute. Thank you, Brian Compton.
Thanks, Brian.
L'Engle. I'm going to choose L'Engle. And this is a book that came out, I believe, in 1962. And it's part of a quintet. So there are 4 books in this series.
I'm already I'm going to buy the other 4.
I know.
I'm already going to buy the other 4.
We got to find out what happens to these characters.
Yes.
But what I found interesting about Madeline L'Engle is that when we start reading the book, we get to know our protagonist, another shy character, similar
I'm seeing a pattern here.
Haunting of Hill House,
Yeah.
who is not very good at school, or she thinks she's not very good at school. She's a little awkward. She feels like people make fun of her. And when you look at Madeline L'Engle, that is what she was like when she was a child.
Yes.
So she's pulling from her own personal experience. She was in multiple different kinds of schools, and she was not super great at school and kind of did her own thing and started writing short stories when she was really, really young, 5 and 8, and
Absolutely.
so felt kind of different from everyone else. She also, her father got sick. She was in boarding school and sent away to different schools, and her father got sick while she was at boarding school, and she never made it back home to say goodbye to him before he passed away. And
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Then of course that's what this book is about.
I know. I read that after I read the first
Wow.
3 chapters, and I thought, which I'm glad I did.
Yeah.
So I didn't go into it with that, but once I did, I thought, oh my gosh, this story is such from her experience and her heart. And this is one of the first books that she wrote that got published. She had been writing for years and years and years, and when
Constant rejection.
Yeah.
Constant rejection.
this got rejected 30 times.
Over 30 times people didn't want to publish this.
I know.
And I love that because she promised herself by her 40th birthday that she was going to stop writing. Just because she wasn't, by her standards, pulling her weight in terms of the household with income. Because she's like, I'm a writer at heart, and nobody is publishing my work. And she said, by my 40th birthday, I'm just going to stop. But she learned after that, no, I can't. I have to keep doing this. I have to write. I have to keep doing this, which I think is fascinating. I love those success stories of people that we admire who don't find that success until years later. I love that. I always go to the fact that Stan Lee didn't create Spider-Man until he was like 38 or something. And now he's, I don't know, 164 or something. He's a very old man. But
yes, he's
but
immortal.
It's really encouraging to hear that.
Sure.
That people were passing up on this really brilliant children's novel, which is great.
Yeah, and you see sort of that a life lived and explored and felt leads to these really wonderful stories as well. And so you can feel that in this, and it won the 1963 Newbery Medal. These books are taught in school. They've been around for years.
Yeah.
People regard them as some of the best children's stories of all time. And she loved writing about children because she loved experimenting with what I think we're going to get into in this book, which is matters of science and physics and all these huge ideas that she said that children understood easier than adults because they had that sort of flexibility that I think the same thing when you're a kid, when you're really, really young, you're generally not as insecure until you get into a certain age because everything around you, society, school is obviously other people.
Kids are not set in their ways.
Yeah.
And when I was a kid, I used to draw a lot. And I remember hearing somewhere from somebody, maybe a famous artist, that said that the difference between somebody who can draw well and somebody who can't is that the person who can't got discouraged and listened to that discouragement at a young age. That there's a story where an artist was drawing a tree and a child will come by and go, "Oh, is that a tree?" And one kid will go, "Oh, that makes me feel really bad. I'm going to stop." And the other kid will go, "Yeah, it's a tree," and then kind of keep going. And that is the perfect example of those influences that we feel from the outside, which suck. And I really like the sort of kid perspective in this book, the first few chapters, which is great. Yeah.
It's similar to, I know we had our Eleanor from the last book for everyone who was here joining us, who was our into that story.
Yeah.
And I feel like in this we really get to know Meg Murray right away. It's very clear who she is right away. And so that's the power of a narrator, especially if you're using sort of the narrator point of view and not the omniscient point of view, where it puts you in the story right away, you identify with them, and that's why I think, especially in science fiction and genre and fantastical worlds, having someone that is, in effect, everyone can identify with feeling an outsider, even if they don't outwardly feel that way. I think everyone here has at one point or another, at least once in your life, felt that way. So
that's
they make really great. Yeah.
I would hope. I would hope. Yeah. We're going to get into talking about what actually happened in the first 3 chapters. We're reading the first 3, guys, and if you want to catch up, go get the book, go download it, go find it, and you can read the first 3 and then the next 3. So then by next week, we'll have read up to chapter 7, and we're going to be covering the first 6 chapters, which is really exciting. Somebody in the chat said, that's Darkman220. Hello, Hector, Rachel, and Ghost Mod. Hey, Darkman220.
Is she haunting us?
That's probably what it is,
It's the haunting of book club.
Haunting of Mod Garrett, Haunting of Alpha Book Club, that's right. And another comment is, cool dress. Thank you.
Thanks.
This is a t-shirt. Oh, right. You have that is cool. That's great. Okay, cool.
Cats on it.
Another great chat. Comment, so inspiring, kind of fuels my creative fire to write more. I know. I'm with you. Exactly the same. Another really interesting thing, too, if we could just talk about Madeline L'Engle one more time, is that she was also, she held a lot of conviction in her Christian faith, which is really interesting, that she was a lover of science, but was also a devout Christian and had these strongly held beliefs and would try to sort of combine the two, I think. I've never read this book before. I have that floating around in my head as we go forward. But this is also one of the most challenged books for elementary school kids and for high school kids and middle school kids. Challenged meaning that like boards of parents, voting boards are saying no, it's bad because of how they just of the concepts that are in the book and what it says about maybe religion and things like that.
Yeah, it's interesting too because
interesting.
She was an Episcopalian, and so she had these beliefs that were too. She believed that everyone, even if they weren't a Christian, for example, or didn't have access to religion, would be forgiven and by what she believed. And so that wasn't Christian enough for a lot of Christians, but then it was too Christian for others. So I think that'll be interesting to see going forward. Just, everyone's allowed to believe whatever they believe or don't believe, but seeing how those ideas of possibly good or evil or forgiveness kind of tie into the story will be super interesting to unpack, I think.
Absolutely. I got to point out this comment from the chat. Pandar saying, I got the graphic novel version as well.
Ooh.
My 9-year-old nephew saw it and read the first graphic novel. I believe that was written and drawn by Hope Larson. Correct me if I'm wrong, chat. But I also was aware of that, and never having read the book, I thought maybe a couple months back, I think when it came out, or a year or so ago, I was like, ooh, I'll read that first. But now that I'm reading the book, I definitely am going to check out the graphic novel. This is just a straight adaptation graphic novel of A Wrinkle in Time. And and we'll talk a little bit about the movie version.
Yeah, which starts production today.
In
Los Angeles.
That is some good timing.
I really want to see if we can get anyone from it in here. So we're gonna keep your fingers crossed.
That'd be
work
amazing.
on it.
So let's start talking about the first 3 chapters again, just to cover exactly what happens. We've got we meet, like Rachel mentioned, Meg Murray. She's the main character. She lives up in an attic type room in her house. It's a dark and stormy night. That's the first iconic line of the book. And the house gets some visitors. Before we get the first visitor, we also meet the rest of the family, except one family member's missing. The father, Mr. Murray, is not around. And we get to spend some time with Meg when she goes to school the next day, and how she deals with the disappearance or absence of her father, and how the school deals with it, which I thought was just like, you're a terrible principal, the way that the principal was treating her, saying, hey, is everything okay? When are you going to face facts? Your dad's gone.
He's
Remember
gone.
That?
Yeah, I know. It's horrible.
That was horrible.
I hate to admit that I have been in schools that some were great and some definitely had teachers like that and principals like that who are, and especially in this time, but who are harder on kids and don't have that sort of empathy, which just boggles my mind that you would work with kids and want to be around kids and not realize what they're going through. Because when you meet a young kid or a teenager, don't you immediately want to just be like, oh, it'll be okay, I promise? Especially a awkward or...
You would think, Rachel, you would think. But I think one thing that every kid has to learn at some point is that, like, adults are flawed human beings.
They're people.
They're people. And not every adult in my life is the most qualified adult to be in my life. And there's a bunch of adults who just like have this job as a teacher, and they're kind of messing up my childhood now. I feel like every kid kind of realizes that.
And they're not always right.
They're not always right.
You do have to listen to them and your parents if we have any kids in there. I say this to my little brother is 16.
Oh,
and
hard
so
age.
yes.
Fun, but like tough.
It was tough for me, but it gets better. But whenever I talk to my set, I try to say that, like, they're people. They're not always going to get it right, but you do have to listen to them till you're 18, and then you can get out of there, and then you're free.
And then you can, but then if you go to a job and the bosses there are not the most qualified adults, you have to listen to them until you get out. It's a good lesson to learn.
Yep.
It's a good lesson to learn that there's going to just be flawed people.
Yeah.
A great comment from Pandar saying, talking about the comic book, I've been reading one real chapter, then one graphic novel chapter, then bouncing back and forth. That's fun.
I love that.
That's really great.
And Java Book Geek Girl says, I love how she weaves together science, literature, and religion in both subtle and not so subtle ways.
I like that too.
Yeah, you definitely see this. So Meg, we'll go through kind of the story, but Meg is up in the attic. There's a hurricane. You can already feel how insecure she is. She's telling you a little bit about her family, which is her 3 brothers. She has
Charles Wallace is the youngest.
Wallace, who is
5. My favorite character.
Magical.
My favorite character. I love Charles Wallace.
He's so great. And when you see that she goes downstairs, you get this idea in her head as she's kind of explaining who her family is or thinking through it, that he's very unique and he has this eerie way of sensing where she's going to be and what she's feeling and what she's thinking, she and her mother. And he's down there making sandwiches. He knows exactly what they want. And then they say that he's 5. And your idea of him just goes boop to this tiny little precocious, amazing, magical little creature.
I love it when it's really funny because this is, I think, is a pet peeve of Jessica Chobot. But I love it when like little kids in media talk older than their age. Like if it's well done, there's nothing better than like, the Jerry Maguire kid. Like just a little kid spouting facts and being really smart is so adorable. So we've got Charles Wallace. He's great. Yeah. Then we have the twins who are younger than Meg, who is around 12, 13. And the twins, I think, are 10. Yeah. And I'm forgetting the twins' names. What are we haven't really
we don't get a ton
dove into
of
them too much. because they're the most normal.
Yes,
is what they're described.
They
They're
get
athletic.
along and
They get along with kids at school.
with everyone else.
They hint that they might be a little something different, but they still sort of keep up appearances.
Yeah, Dennis and Sandy.
Dennis and Sandy, that's right.
Yeah.
Dennis and Sandy. That Dennis and Sandy, being 10, they're the ones who protect Meg or rough up people that talk smack about the family. They're like, just let us do it. We're going to do it. We're 3 years younger than you, but we'll do it.
Yep.
Is that, am I missing anybody? Is that it?
Those are the three.
Those are the siblings.
And
Okay.
then we have Mrs. Murray.
Yes.
Who's a beautiful scientist.
Love that.
Yep, she's wonderful.
Awesome.
She is struggling with the secret, basically the secret pain and the mockery of the town.
Yeah.
Saying like, just face it, like your husband probably left you. What do you think happened?
Probably ran off with another woman.
Yeah.
Which the book is saying has characters that say and talk about the mother saying, once you see her, you'll know. There's no way a guy would leave. This woman is fantastic. She's amazing. And a lot of those rumors start from like the male person, because she's like, she knows when the last letter was received by the father, and it was over a year ago, so she knows that something's up, and then she's maybe spreading these rumors. But Mrs. Murray is fantastic. And then they get visited in the first chapter in the middle of the night. Also, Pandar had a comment earlier that his principal told him Tesseracts weren't real. How messed up is that? Come on.
You're just squashing a child's creativity and imagination when you do that.
There's a family tree in the back of the book? I didn't know that.
Because
Cool. No way.
Also because I read that after the quintet, there is a second series that's related to some of these characters.
Which I also read, and I was like, I don't want to know more.
I know, me too.
Let me finish this, and then I'll get to that.
But they go on, so we might have
great.
a long road ahead of us.
Yeah. This is great. There's another great comment from Crowlesso. Crowlesso says, I love that the hurricane turns Meg's independence into a punishment. Meg's independence in her attic room, she wanted that room, that the hurricane turned it into punishment for her. And I feel like that's another thing that makes the character incredibly relatable, but also like frustrating, because you're like, Meg, you're great. You're great. And she's like punishing herself. She's like, well, I deserve this, and this is what I get.
And it's they go out of their way to at first kind of describe her, which is sort of through her own mind, as more plain. But imagine having a brilliant, beautiful scientist mother.
I know.
And these two normal siblings, and your dad is gone, and you've got a super smart
5-year-old kid.
Strange.
Who's like oddly taking care of you. Like he's like a therapist, and he's so great, I know. I love him so much. Charles Wallace. Even the name, Charles Wallace. It's great.
Wallace. And then she just feels like, I don't get anything in school. I just, everyone makes fun of me. Awesome.
Yeah, great. But we're missing some of the most fun characters that we've barely met so far in the first 3 chapters. Mrs. Who, Mrs. Whatsit, and Mrs. Which.
Yes.
Who's the first character that we meet? Is it Mrs. Who?
Whatsit.
Mrs. Whatsit. Mrs. Whatsit, who's played in the book by Reese Witherspoon. It's fantastic.
Yes.
She's great. She just shows up.
That's how I kept them. When I looked at as each one came in, I went, which one?
Yep. Okay, great. So in my mind, Mrs. Whatsit's got a great little Southern accent, real cute little Reese Witherspoon, kind of a klutz, very clumsy. She visits them in the middle of the night, and she says that a Tesseract is real, and then leaves. So there's all this mystery involved, and what does that mean? And Mrs. Murray just goes blank. She just goes, her face turns white, and she's so terrified of that word even, until the next morning, Meg thinks, oh, this was all just a dream. But in fact, it actually happened. And because Charles Wallace, that brilliant little precocious kid that he is, has already met these mysterious characters that have moved into town, apparently.
Into a haunted house, which I thought was just perfect.
He takes Meg the next day after school. And this kid from the neighborhood who's also in the woods named Calvin. Calvin O'Keefe, that's right. I was about to say Calvin Harris, but no, that's a different person. Calvin O'Keefe, and takes them both with the dog, great dog, into the woods to meet Mrs. Who is, of course, played by Mindy Kaling.
Yes.
She's phenomenal in the book, really great. And both of these characters are very mysterious, and they seem to know what's going on, and they seem to be very Gandalfian, because everything is the exact perfect time. They know about all the characters. They know that an adventure's about to start, and they know that they need to maybe recruit these characters, and specifically Meg, maybe Charles Wallace, in this adventure. And at the end of the third chapter, after a dinner at Meg's house, where Calvin comes back, and Calvin's a really bright kid and for the first time feels like he feels at home.
That broke my heart.
Talk about that a little bit.
I was looking for the part where they talk about being an old sport, where he and Charles Wallace kind of bond and figure out that they're both very bright, kind of oddball kids.
And they start talking about Meg too, like, well, what about her? She's cool. Like,
yeah, she's fine. She can come with us. Yeah, so he comes from a family of 11. And basically says, I'm different from everyone else. I play normal, much like perhaps the twins. But he says, oh man.
I think it's on page 40 or it's around page 40.
Yeah, it's around there where he says, he says, okay, old sport, I'll tell you this much. Sometimes I get a feeling about things. You might call it a compulsion. Do you know what compulsion means? Constraint, obligation, because one is compelled. Not a very good definition, but it's the concise Oxford. This is a 5-year-old who says this.
Amazing.
So amazing. Great. And he goes, I must remember I've preconditioned in my concept of your mentality. So they're immediately like, we found each other, we are alike, we have these maybe peculiar insights into what's happening, some sort of premonition. And so they bond immediately. Calvin is elated to have found people that not only will invite him into this warm and loving home that his parents won't even notice that he's not there because he's one of 11. So they're just running around all over the place.
And Calvin asks Charles Wallace, are you sure? And he goes, she'd be delighted. Mother's all right. She's not one of us, but she's all right. That's what Charles Wallace says to Calvin, this kid he just met, about this sort of level of intelligences that are being thrown around. And Meg's like, what do you mean one of us? Like, she's like, because kind of offended at that. Exactly. At the end of this third chapter, after dinner, Meg and Calvin have a little moment. They've got a moment. Now, what happens in this moment exactly? Because at first I was scoffing, I'll be honest. I was like, Meg, come on. You're already like pining after this guy. Like, you just met him. To me, he's kind of a dork. I don't know what the big deal is, but there was a little something there. Okay, all right, okay. How do you feel about that?
I mean, I feel like when you meet someone who is kind to you, listens to you, is smart, and you admire smart because you come from a family of very intelligent people, I totally get why she would, especially at her age, just blossom at that kind of attention and affection, and that he allows her to feel and be herself. And she thinks, I already cry too much. I already feel too much. I don't want to feel. And he's like, no, it's okay. Yeah. That's totally fine.
And she's just like immediately, just like that release.
Totally. Yeah. I understand in that moment. And I think too that you get little signs when they're doing their homework together, or when Mrs. Murray is talking to Meg and says, remember all those tests that we did? Like, she's clearly testing super, super high IQ as well, but she is burdened by this insecurity and this fear, I think, in a way that Charles Wallace is not, because he hasn't gone to school. And he already is saying, it's better for people to think that I'm a moron and that I can't talk than to be this.
Because it's bad to correct people. Just like that Chris Evans movie trailer that just came out, Gifted. There's like a really smart little girl in that too, which is great. Great comment from Java Book Geek Girl. This is my third time reading the book and realized for the first time that the misses aren't punctuated. Oh, cool. I didn't notice that either. That's awesome. People are saying, Stiffy says, that's funny because I imagined the misses as old ladies. All of the misses.
I think they're described in the book. They do have gray hair.
Sure. And on this cover, great illustration,
Yeah, I wonder
older
if
ladies.
Oh, yeah. So I think they are, but I think they're, now that the movie...
Come on, you got to make them young and sexy.
We're picturing Oprah and Mindy and Reese in these roles now, which is fine.
Mrs. Witch just appears at the end of the third chapter, played, of course, by the impeccable Oprah Winfrey, and says, you kids need to come with us, it's time, and that's it.
We're going to go get your dad.
I'm so excited. So excited. This is, it's really, really cool. So... let's talk a little bit about where you think the book is going to go, Rachel. What do you think is going to happen in the story? Because I have no clue.
So they talk about the dad.
Yeah.
And he was working on something top secret. He's a scientist. The mom is trying to work on a project.
Tesseract.
The Tesseract.
Which to me is a cosmic cube.
Yes.
That's what it is to me.
Yeah, of course.
It's Marvel Comics. It's a cosmic cube.
Yes, exactly.
Check.
It's some sort of alternate universe, time travel, something in there. And so I think that he is maybe working for the government, developing something that, of course, is the government, so probably going to get turned into a weapon. Maybe that wasn't his intent. It feels like, or he got lost. Something like when you create a rip in the space-time continuum in any way, you're bound to get lost if you're the first one doing it.
Yes, of course.
So I think that the letter stopped because he found something, he fell into it, and they have to go and get him out of it.
Okay, so it's all about the dad. And I think there's a great flashback moment where the dad was talking to Meg about those tests. And the dad, of course, is played by Chris Pine, who is so handsome.
He's a very handsome man.
And Chris Pine is telling his daughter, no, we've tested you. Like, you're going to be fine.
Yeah.
We know exactly what we're doing. We've done different tests for the twins, and, we do different things, but you're going to be fine. Don't worry. I love you. You're going to be great. Now I'm just going to go disappear in the time stream or something, I think is what he said, right? That's what he said.
Yeah, basically.
Back to that moment between Meg and Calvin, people are talking about how they're both isolated, that Meg met someone who sees her, and I think that means a lot to her.
Yeah.
That was from Heezy, Sheezy, and Crelesso, I think. Thank you. And another great comment, too. I remember the first time somebody got me or understood me. That was a great comment as well. Thank you for that. It was great. Wrinkle in Time is part of the MCU confirmed. Yep, that's right, Pandar. Absolutely.
I mean, it is Disney.
It is Disney.
So
it's part of that Disney multiverse. Now that Doctor Strange opened it up, one of those multiverses is the Wrinkle in Time one. They're gonna pop over and hang out with Oprah and Chris Pine. It'll be great.
Oh my gosh.
So we have, we've got 3/4 of the book left. We just read the first 3 chapters. If you guys haven't caught up, you can go ahead and catch up now and be back with us next week. It's going to be up to chapter 7, which means read the first 6, stop after you're done with 6, and then we just talked a little bit about what's going to happen. I think that we're going to meet some more characters.
Yes.
I think that the story is, I think that Madeleine L'Engle, the author, is her language is so much fun. Her language is so like riddles. It reminds me of The Hobbit. It reminds me of all these great children's books. I know. So I think we're going to meet some more characters. I think we're going to see some adventures. And also, I've seen some weird cover art. So I think we're going to meet like a crazy-looking Pegasus guy.
Oh, yeah.
No idea what's going to happen. No idea what's going to happen. But those are amazing.
There are some really trippy covers from the 60s, which is a great time for book covers in general.
Yep.
But there's a guy people on Twitter were saying looks like Tarkin from Star Wars.
Ooh, yes.
With red eyes. Yeah. And although this came first. And there's the Pegasus, and there are all these sort of celestial images. And look at that. I mean, A Wrinkle in Time.
That's cool. That looks like a Hitchcock poster to me.
I know, it does.
I love that. I love that image. I would get like a poster. What's that? That's the first edition cover of the book.
So based on that,
A
Wrinkle in Time.
They're going to get into some big hamster wheels, and then we're going to see what we get out of that. They're just figuring it out. No, that was, they're in different timelines or something, Love that cover. I would get a poster of that.
I know.
I really would. I'm really excited. Is it time? Oh, real quick, guys. We're always looking for our next book. So if you guys have got any recommendations, feel free to hit us up on the chat or tweet at Nerdist or tweet at Geek and Sundry or join Team Alpha with the hashtag Alpha Book Club along with your recommendations. You can also just tweet at Rachel and I, like whatever recommendations you guys have got.
Or more thoughts, things you want to discuss next time.
Absolutely. We can. I'll read tweets. I don't care. I'm on Twitter all the time. Yes. Ooh, let's some fan casting. Well, here's the thing. We might as well just get into it, but because I would love fan casting. I would love some fan casting. And I really enjoyed that I was able to pull up an already set cast for this new Ava DuVernay film. I loved Ava DuVernay's Selma and her documentary 13th, which is, and I just watched 13th. It's on Netflix like 2 weeks ago. If you guys haven't seen those movies, highly recommend going and seeing them. There's a really interesting thing that's happening with this new Wrinkle in Time adaptation, because there was one previously. I think it was a made-for-TV movie.
Yep, it was
starred
with Gregory Smith.
Gregory Smith from that movie House Arrest. Was that the one? Kevin Pollak?
I think he's in that. He was on Everwood.
Everwood,
he was
that's
also
right, with
in
Chris Pratt.
Xenon.
Yes, Girl of the 21st Century, right?
Oh, yeah.
This is it. Wow, look at this thing. Classic 90s, guys. Or this early 2000s. I don't know. Oh, that's amazing.
Oh my God.
Is that?
Yeah.
Wait a minute.
That's Alfred Woodard, isn't it?
That is Alfred Woodard. Are you kidding me? I gotta go back and watch this.
Yeah.
I gotta watch. This is amazing. So, there's Chewbacca there. What a great cameo from Chewbacca.
They're
Glad
in
to
some
see
sort of
he's still
ice world.
He's still getting work there,
Spoilers.
Chewie. Oh, this is too good.
Oh my God.
So this already existed, and I remember being aware of this as a kid, but I had never really seen it, I don't think, so I didn't have this cast in my head as I went and read the book. What I did have is I looked up the cast that was just announced, and again, like they just started production today for Ava DuVernay's movie, and you've got Oprah Winfrey as Mrs. Which, Mindy Kaling as Mrs. Who, and Reese Witherspoon is Mrs. What's-It. You've also got some unknowns, some kid actors I'm not familiar with, some kid actors that have done a lot of good work. Playing Meg Murray is Storm Reed, and she looks so adorable. She looks fantastic. An actor named Derek McCabe is playing Charles Wallace. He looks super cute. You see him?
I know, yeah.
Do you see how cute he looks?
I know.
Oh my gosh, Charles Wallace. And we've also got, to round out the cast, Zach Galifianakis is playing a character named the Happy Medium. We haven't even gotten to that point yet.
But they did bring up the principal, who I feel like is he tells her, you've got to reach a happy
Principal
medium.
Jenkins. Andre Holland is playing. Yeah, absolutely.
So he referenced that, and you know what this? Did you ever read The Phantom Tollbooth?
No. But I've seen The Phantom Menace. Is that similar?
Exactly the same.
Okay, great. Cool.
I was going to say, if you've seen the I think it's the 70s movie version of The Phantom Tollbooth, it's really trippy, but it does a lot of wordplay. They play with rhyme and reason and metaphors and make them real. And so a lot of this wordplay in that reminded me
I love
of
it.
that.
I can't. Yeah, exactly. I remember the words, the happy medium, and then looking up after and going, "Oh, Zach Galifianakis is apparently playing the phrase that the principal uttered." Okay, that's great. Carlesso says, "Oof, that movie was something. I gotta go watch it."
Yeah.
Oh, Storm Reed's a cutie. I know that says stiff use. That's great. And here's what's really interesting, and I think that there's a specific reason that Ava DuVernay cast the way she cast, that Disney hired her. This book came out in 1963.
Yep.
It was obviously a different time in terms of representation and what was important.
Sure.
And you've got Ava, and she cast actress Gugu Mbatha-Raw to play Dr. Kate Murray, Mrs. Murray, and Chris Pine to play Dr. Alex Murray, the dad, mom and the dad. If you're not familiar, Gugu Mbatha-Raw is black, and Chris Pine is white. So this means that they have an interracial relationship. It's 2016. This movie's coming out in 2018. Not a big deal.
Nope.
However, Ava DuVernay tweeted when more casting was being announced, and the fact that they're casting the kids with actors that are of mixed race, that she tweeted out this great gif of, I want to say it was Will Smith. It was going like this, I think. And the gif is, when people realize what I'm doing with A Wrinkle in Time, like with this casting announcement. And she's just kind of like sitting back, and she's like getting excited at people kind of putting two and two together. I think that Meg Murray may be dealing with something that children of different ethnicity parents deal with in the United States, of mixed relationships, which is this interesting thing of, oh, you're not black enough, you're not white enough. There's still a level that kids have to go through that kids whose parents are the same race, they aren't even aware of it. And I think that Ava is going to talk a little bit about that. I don't know how much the time travel is going to impact the story, but I think that Ava is going to talk about what it means to be maybe black or of a different ethnicity other than white in different time periods. You know, there's just that great joke that time travel is great for white people because y'all can go anywhere, but if you're not white, like, you can only go into the future.
Yep.
You know, and hopefully things work out. But it's just like, you know, it's no, even last year wasn't as good as it is this year, and so on and so forth. Well, that might not be the case, but I think that Ava's doing something really great with the casting. Obviously, Oprah Winfrey and Mindy Kaling, an Indian actress playing Mrs. Who. I'm really, really excited with the Murray family. And when I had these actors in mind, I went and read the book and was reading the first few chapters, and it wasn't until we got to Charles Wallace that there was an actual physical description that kind of plainly laid out, he's a little kid with blonde hair. And I'm like, okay, all right. Otherwise, Meg, the way she was described, I'm like, she could be a black child, could be a black kid, a little girl.
Same thing with Hermione in The Cursed Child.
Same thing with Hermione. And J.K. Rowling's aware of this stuff. And, you know, and I think that people are becoming more and more, studios, I should say, are becoming more and more aware of it and conscious about it. And to some people, it is, it's not good to cast differently than an original character was conceived if it's an adaptation of something. But I think that a lot of people understand that when those original materials, whether it's a book or a comic book or whatever, when those first came out, the landscape was very different as to what representation meant and how accurately to represent people. And if we keep adapting things, which is what we're doing, but just keep telling these same stories and keep telling, especially in the comic book world, stories that were from the 60s or earlier, it's just going to be white casts over and over and over and over again. But when you change the gender of a character, the ethnicity of a character, it better represents the world today, and it sends a message that says to people, and especially kids who happen to look like that, hey, you can be a hero who travels through time. Not to say that kids of all colors couldn't relate to characters like Luke Skywalker and Han Solo
But
before.
it's important to
but
see
it's
that.
Important.
It's very important to see that.
It's important because I think, again, Ava's very aware of this too with her documentary 13th. It goes against the grain of how a lot of the times certain types of people are represented in the media outside of that. It goes against the grain of that. It's cool that young black kids get to see characters in Star Wars be heroes, because oftentimes it's just, you know, young black men are being arrested on television and in the news and all of that kind of thing. Anyway, not to get too heavy into it, but go see 13th. Oh my God, 13th is fantastic.
I think it's incredible. I think that Ava is pushing for that in everything that she's doing. So I'm super excited to see the film.
Absolutely.
Super excited to see what's next. So you guys send us all of your thoughts, questions, comments, everything on Twitter.
Yeah.
We're always tweeting.
We're
about
just
the
always
books.
tweeting
We're
about
really
this.
excited
Exactly.
about
It's
it,
always
so.
yeah. Oh, and if you're gonna put on a soundtrack to listen to while reading this, Stranger Things, Volume 1 and 2.
I'm gonna do that
It
as
works.
soon as I read the
It's
next
like
3
not
chapters.
too creepy, but it's not too nostalgic 80s. Highly recommend it. So guys, that's Alpha Book Club. I am Hector Navarro.
I'm Rachel Heine.
And we will see you guys next week right here on Alpha. Bye.